And I think we're live. I never know for sure, but I think we're live. And yes, we are live. I'm here with my new friend Kenny. How are you doing?
I'm good, doing good, man. How are you, David?
Very well. I just got home from a long week work of week of work and shoveled some food into my face, and now I'm talking to you. So this is exciting. And the weekend is beginning, so I'm happy about that. And where are you geographically?
Boise, Idaho, USA.
Oh, okay.
One third of my life I'm traveling, and that's 90% of it's in the Philippines.
Oh, well, we're going to get into all that. But first, I like my guests to go way back to the beginning. As you know, because maybe you've seen a couple of my episodes, go back and talk about, the early childhood setting for faith, philosophy, and all that stuff. And the whole journey, up until today. And then we'll get into the Philippines and all that stuff. Okay.
Okay. Well, feel free to stop me, David, and say, okay, move on to this or this or whatever. I'm just here to serve you and your viewers here. Well, I amazingly started off as a child, and I mean, one of those. I mean, what are the odds, right? And grew up in the late 50s. I mean, I was born in the late 50s, 1958, and grew up during the hippie days,
Mm.
and I was never really one of those hippie guys. I was an athlete, and that's what was my thing in high school and college. And but yet all the hippies and everyone around me. And then I grew up, and then I went to college, and I didn't have any kind of a paradigm for Jesus or religion or any kind
Oh.
of. I didn't even know there was such thing as a worldview. And this was during the Jesus Revolution, or that you've heard
Ah,
about that.
yeah.
That many people have seen the movie Jesus Revolution, and it was during we just call it the Jesus days. We didn't know we were in those days at the moment. You're just living, and I was like one of the millions that had an encounter with Jesus, and I was,
Mm.
I was from one moment I was me, and the next moment I was boom, radically changed by encountering the presence of Jesus. That was at a Keith Green concert. I don't know if you know your music or anything, but Keith Green was one of those first Christian guys, that was kind of modern rock Christian music,
Ah.
and he was on the cutting edge of that, and walked into a concert not knowing even what it was in my college campus, and I had an encounter with the living God. And David, my life has never been the same.
Wow, very cool. Can you just briefly, respecting the privacy of your family members, can you just talk a little bit about siblings, parents, and what kind of worldview they ended
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah,
with?
yeah. Yeah, one sister, 10 years older than me.
Ah,
Lovely girl, still alive to this day. And I grew up I would think I thought it was very normal, but it was very dysfunctional. My mom my dad was a Marine engineer. He was gone on a ship for 9 months out of the year, home for 3, home with quotes around that because it'd usually be a week or two before they start fighting and arguing. And he'd go off to a hotel. And that was my life growing up. They got divorced when I was, like sixth grade, and never had a dad in my family, my home, my life. And grew up in a rather interesting family. Cops called regularly at parties, and fights, and it was really a crazy upbringing, really. But I really thought it was normal. I just thought that was normal.
well, it
you
is
know
normal today. Now it is normal.
yeah, right. And so that was my life growing up. And and so I was really, my sister left early. She got married, and then I was with my mom, and my mom was divorced, and she was working in a bar and making money to make ends meet and feed me. And I mean, I thought I grew up just normal, but as my wife would say, and I remember my mother-in-law would say, like, how in the world did you ever come out of that situation? How'd you ever come out normal? I don't know. I just did.
what did they
It was
make?
a crazy upbringing.
What did they make of your conversion? Because I'm sure they noticed.
They sure did. Yeah, because I was 18 my freshman year of college, and my mom said, "Oh yeah, your cousin Mike went through that, but it just wore off."
Ah,
And well, you know what? I don't know what Mike experienced, but I know who I experienced. And when you experience the living God, you're changed forever. And I was radically changed. I mean, it affected every part of me. And I've never walked away from Jesus ever since.
Nice. How'd you meet your wife, and what's that story all about?
Mm, she's a beauty, by the way. DA is her name, letter D, letter A. And I was a sophomore in college, living in the dorms, co-ed dorms, guys, girls, on the floors. And she was in the dorm. And first time I saw her, I went, "Oh man, she's a cute little thing." And all year long, I wanted to date her. And it was to the last week of school. And finally, all her friends and everything was like, you need to ask her out. And I did, asked her out, and went out. I was skydiving actually that day for doing a campus jump, and I told her, I said, I'm going to skydive. We're going to jump in a lake. Actually, I mean, I've also been quite an adventurer, and so we jumped in a lake. I said, my parachute's going to have to dry. It's going to be a while till I get home, so don't worry. Well, hours and hours and hours went by, and she thought, you're just a player. I knew what kind of guy you were. You just played me. And that's what she told me, later on. I ended up coming home. There was no cell. These things called I mean, there was no such thing as a cell phone back in those days. That was in 1977. And so she just thought I played her and, was going to be the womanizer like she thought I was. And, I got back to the dorms really late. We went out to eat, came back in the dorms. And that night, sitting there in the stairwell of the dorm, I looked at her and I said, I want to marry someone like you someday. And lo and behold, 3 years later, we got married.
Wow, very cool.
We have 5 children, 6 children actually, 5 daughters, 1 son, and 16 grandchildren. We have
Wow.
got a quiver full.
Wow. Why'd you say five and then six?
Because I have 5 daughters. I was gonna say I have 5 daughters.
Okay.
I have 6 children, 5 daughters, 1 son.
Boy,
So
boys' lives matter.
boys' lives matter. And I saw a lot of chick flicks over the years. People say, "Oh, I feel sorry for you." I go, I loved Sleepless in Seattle. I love While You Were Sleeping. I
You've Got
just,
Mail. Did you watch that one? You've Got Mail.
exactly.
It's
And
good.
so I still like those kind of movies. So I guess I'm a chick flick kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I liked it, and I loved my daughter so much, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I just love them dearly.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know or not, but I try not to learn about my guests before I talk to them, so it's fresh. But I did
Yeah,
I did
good.
notice I did notice in your bio when I was copying and pasting it that there's some sex trafficking or something like that. So
Yeah.
is that your main job, or you just do that as a sort of a hobby? The sex trafficking.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm
hobby.
kidding. I'm
Do I
kidding. I'm
rescue
kidding. I'm
girls in
kidding.
the sex trade as a hobby? Yeah, just on the weekends, just kind of a fun thing to do.
So what's the story there? I mean, that sounds like quite a
Oh,
story.
yeah, I know. In fact, I went to a dermatologist today, and she's asking, "What do you do for a living?" I go, "You'll never guess. You'll never guess in 100 years." "What do you do?" I go, "We rescue girls in the sex trade in the islands of the Philippines, and we give them freedom, hope, and a future." She looked at me and says, "Well, thank you." But so all I have to say is that I was a teacher. I was, I graduated from college, taught school, enjoyed that, went off to seminary,
Oh,
uh, taught one school for 1 year, went off to seminary, did that. Took me 5 years to get through. You're married, you end up having kids, and now you have a bride to take care of, and little kids running around. So I graduated, pastored, and then that was kind of a fiasco, really. I was pastoring and I didn't fit very well. I don't fit the norm in a lot of ways. And wouldn't you know, of course, God would direct me to the sex trade. So I'm going back. I'm back into teaching here in Boise, Idaho, and coaching basketball. We took a short version here. We went to the Philippines to take a team of guys to play basketball over there and work with a church in the slums. Did that for 2 weeks. The following year, I came back. I brought a girls team. Wanted to get my own daughters involved, and took a girls team there, volleyball team actually. The girls don't play basketball in the Philippines. You'd think Philippines, very short people, but they love basketball. It's the number one thing. Anyway, all that to say is that I saw the sex trade and I was deeply broken. My father's heart just broke. And I just told God, I would do anything. God, I'll do anything to set one of these girls free. Like, what could I do? And lo and behold, he took me up on my offer. And one step after another, uh, I mean, again, you're getting the very quick version. I, hard to believe, really. When I'm even talking about like how do people get involved in the sex trade and rescuing girls? And I met a gal in the Philippines who was part of a ministry, and met her. We started talking, and we lived happily ever after. I mean, my wife and I just wanted to get involved, and we hired this gal. Had no money. I'm working at a Christian high school. We get paid a fraction of what public school teachers get paid, who don't get paid all that much. And God just did it. It was a supernatural work of God. And we hired this gal with nothing. And then we got a house. My wife says, "Man, we need to get a house. Let's get a house." So we got a safe house. And we went to try to rescue these girls. I mean, had no background, no training, whatever. And fast forwarding to this day, we have 5 safe houses. We've got 4 in Manila. We've got 1 in Angeles City, was where most of our girls come from. It's like a third world Vegas, 12,000
Wow.
girls, 240 bars. All of them are tricked and trafficked into coming into the bars, all out of deep poverty. And that's just how we started. And I never looked back. I didn't do that for a few years while I was teaching, and then it became, like, what do you do? I mean, you got all this email, you got all this stuff, so I ended up resigning, and and then this is what I do in my life right now.
Wow. So is there any government money or church money or anything that can help support a growing cause like that?
We are a true NGO, non-government organization. So
Okay.
all of our donations come from private individuals like yourself and
Okay.
just former students and people who find us online at Wipe Every Tear. They follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and people just give, to help these girls. It takes $50,000 to $60,000 a month to do what we do, and
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
I know, like, and
Wow.
and if you were to ask me the next question, "How do you get your money?" My answer is and would be, "I have no idea. It just comes in every month."
Wow.
We don't have a
Wow.
backlog. We don't have, like, 2 months in the bank. We don't have
No.
3 months in the bank. We don't have a years of operating. It just comes in every
Yeah.
month to take care of these
Providence.
girls. Yeah,
Providence.
God
So
is good.
it's wipeeverytear.org. I put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow. What about the mafias that are angry that you're taking away their girls?
Okay, you ready for this? Because there's a supernatural part of God. We have never in 12 years been in these bars regularly, and we're in there every day feeding the girls, every day but 1 day of the week. We feed right now at 400 meals a day. We go into the bars, serve these girls meals because they're hungry. Um, excuse me. And we've never been threatened. Never once have we had a gun pulled out, a knife. We've never had a fist that goes like, "You get out of our bar," because we go in. Ephesians 6 says that we don't have any enemies. We don't war against people. We war against principalities, spirits, demons, and that's how it is. And so every person, every bar owner, every mama-san, which is a manager of these girls, they're all our friends. We love them. We know that God loves them, and so we really do love them, and they end up, like, loving us. I mean, not I mean, we've been asked to leave bars before, but they do it nicely.
We love you. Can you leave now?
Yeah, one time I got an email, David. It was a page long. "Dear Kenny, I've wiped every tear. Hello, how are you? We love what you're doing." And I'm like, "Who are these people? We own these 2 bars in Angeles City on Fields Avenue. You know, we just kindly ask you if you would, profane or would keep, just prohibit yourself from entering our bars." And they were so nice, and we did. We just stayed out of those bars. It's since changed, and now we're back in those bars, but we go in all the bars, and we talk to these girls, and we give them a hope and of a real freedom in the future that awaits them.
Uh, I'm sure you know, Philippines is very Catholic, or at least ostensibly very
Very,
Catholic. Does
very.
that play in at all to the culture? Do they frown on organized crime and trafficking of any kind? Do they frown on it generally
Um,
as a culture?
you would think so, but no, not in the aspect where they get involved because, for example, prostitution is illegal in the Philippines. But if I were to right now play a video of Angeles City, you would go like, "That looks like a third world Las Vegas." Lights are flashing, girls are in the street, they call them door girls, luring you in, "Come in, come in, come in, come in," and and yet this is illegal. But in the Philippines and much around the world, it's the the law enforcement is on the take, and it's different than America. And we say I say all this all the time that everyone's on the take. It's illegal, but the local policeman is on the take. The county or the barangay, it's called, administrator or captain is on the take. Everyone's on the take, and so they all get money from the bars and from the system. And so I'm at 12,000 girls, 240 bars, lights flashing, music blaring. And in fact, one day, David, there were some, they call them tourist police. They walk on the street and sometimes they come on with a police car to make it. One time they told me, "Yeah, it's a very family friendly place and we like to keep it that way." And you're going like, "Yeah, family friendly." If I were to take you there, you would go like, "You've got to be kidding me. Family friendly? This is not family friendly." And so these guys, there were 4 guys. This is just about a year ago. And I said, "Hey guys, how are you?" And they, "Oh, hey, how are you?" They have very good English there. They're talking. I said, "Hey, I have a question for you guys. Just about the bar thing." I said, "Prostitution is illegal in the Philippines. How does this work?" All 4 of them went like this, turned around. And I said, "No, guys, I'm not trying to trap you. No, I'm a nice guy." And then one guy turned back around, engaged me. I said, "I just don't get it. Prostitution is illegal in this nation. So how does this work?" He just turns around and they never talk to me about it. Everyone's on the take.
Wow. So, when I was in Greece, my wife is Greek, and we were traveling around Greece on our honeymoon, and on the island of Mykonos, I believe it was, one of the bar owners, we were just like busking outside or doing whatever we could do to survive because we were just doing a no money honeymoon, and one of the shop owners or the bar owners asked Anna, because she's attractive, to come in and dance, like just free drinks or whatever, and she could just dance just to attract guys. And this was common practice over there, but there was no sex, like that wasn't on the table, that wasn't in the cards. It was just like, just get some attractive girls in the bars so the guys will come in and buy drinks. So in these Filipino bars, what is there, an upper room or something where the prostitution takes place, or how does that
In
work?
these, it's very, very unique. So it all started, let me go back to how it started. Um, American military bases
Oh,
are yeah,
oh,
yeah. Yeah, see, you look at the reaction on your
oh,
face like, "Ah."
oh,
American military bases, wherever we have been throughout the history, people bring girls. And
oh,
there was the fence it was Clark Air Force Base, and, there was a fence, and they'd come through there was just it was they were just on the other side of the fence. There they were. They started setting up these little bars, and the men would come visit. That's how it all began. And so, what was your question again?
what, like, let's say I'm a tourist in the Philippines and I go into a bar
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, what's it look like? Yeah,
no,
okay,
no, but
yep.
what's the arrangement? Like, let's
Yeah,
say,
yeah, right, yeah, how's it
le
work? Yeah.
yeah.
So that's how it all began. So you now the bars are still there. The base left, by the way,
Uh,
in 1992 after Mount Pinatubo blew up, a
okay.
volcano, and just destroyed the base. They left, and so then they reopened, and they marketed. Unfortunately, their marketing scheme worked. They marketed to the world that you buy a girl for a whole night. In other places, it's they have a place where you just go for, just it's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And now you buy these girls, excuse me, for one night. And you walk into a bar, you go in, and here's all these girl dancers. That's what they're called, dancers. And there could be 30, or they could be 300, it could be 400 in a bar. And they every 30 minutes they get, I hate to say this, but new meat.
Uh-huh.
New girls come in. That's how they say it. New meat. And they come in every 30 minutes. And so you arrange, you sit down and you call a girl down, and she comes down and sits with you. And then you arrange with her mama son. Her mama son will come and say, do you want her? Do you want to take her out for a night? And then you arrange what they call, now again, prostitution's illegal. So they have this thing called a bar fine. You fine the girl, she's leaving work early.
Oh.
And so we're going to fine the girl for leaving
Oh.
work.
Huh,
So they fine her 5,000 pesos, which is $100.
okay.
And you, as the customer, you pay her fine.
Ah.
And now everything's legal, everything's cool.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And she goes out with you for the night,
Wow.
and she spends the night with you. Excuse me, I have a getting over a cold here.
It's okay. It's okay. So, yeah, so I'm just wondering what role the lawyers play in all of this.
You
And
know,
if they're American lawyers or Filipino lawyers or what kind of lawyers they got over there.
and that's how it works. And that's what we go in, and we don't disguise ourselves. In the early days, we did.
Uh,
But now they know who we are. I mean, we're in there every day feeding the girls,
yeah.
and so they know, oh yeah, they're wipe every tear. And so we come in, and but the only way that we can get my Filipina, there's 13 of them, 13 Filipina staff. The only way they can, any way a Filipino can go into the bars is by having a foreigners, because the bars do not allow Filipinos to go in.
Oh, that was my next question. That was my next question. Yeah,
Now, can you imagine
the
American
clientele.
bars in your city, my
Uh-huh.
city of
Uh-huh.
Boise, and they don't allow Americans to go in? Only
Yeah.
foreigners?
Yeah. Well, I'm Canadian.
Reverse
I'm
it.
Canadian, by the way. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in case you didn't
There we
know.
go. Yeah, imagine that in Montreal.
No Americans allowed. No, we welcome
No
the Americans.
Canadians, no Canadians involved,
Yeah.
but as a foreigner, only Americans or
Uh-huh.
Japanese or whatever could go into those bars. Well, that's how it is. And so the way that we exist is that we do mission teams, and they come to the Philippines, usually a 10-day trip, 10 days to 2 weeks. And they come, and then we do these 2-week trips, and they come, we go into the bars. It's really quite a story how we do it. And we go into the bars, we have these cards that we give them. I don't have one here, but we give them a card. It says what we do. We provide education. We're educational foundation. We do this, that, and all their schooling paid for, this, so forth and so on. In fact, it looks so good that many of the girls say, "What's the catch?
Catch.
Why would you pay for everything?" And it
Yeah.
says, "You'll support my children too." Yeah, your children can come live with you
Wow.
in the house. And so that's how arrangements are done in the whole sex trade. You pay your 5,000, you take her out for the evening, and you can buy her for one day, 5 days. You can buy her for a month, and she's yours
Yeah.
for a month.
So, what is the demographic like? Is it mostly Americans, Europeans that are perpetuating this?
12 years ago, it was mostly Americans, Australians, and a lot of Westerners like that. Also Europeans, but a lot of because of the proximity, there would be Australian, New Zealand, and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Because that's south about 5, 6 hours from the Philippines. Um, Now it is a high percentage of Koreans. Korea is very close as well.
Uh-huh.
And so you'll see a big Korean presence. In fact, they're buying a lot of the bars up, and they're putting up Korean signs, so Koreans can read, and it's a
Wow.
crazy place.
Wow.
But you see a lot of Americans, a lot of Westerners, people of all color that come there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And I'm just wondering if the girls that you rescue, can they, how would they trust a man, and how would they marry a man and have a healthy man in their life? Like, have you seen that happen?
Man, you have good questions. Really, really, that is a really good question. And if I could, I'll answer by telling you a story. So, um, we had our first team. We were in our first year in 2012 when we started, and we had a team from Adventures and Missions out of Gainesville, Georgia. A good friend of mine, Seth Barnes, heads that up. And they sent a team of, I think it was like 3 girls and 3 guys, and they spent a month with us. Prior to that, my director there, Becky Angeles, told our 4 girls in our care, she'd always been saying, "God has a good man for you. There's a good man for you in the future to be married, have children." And finally, one day they looked at her because Becky, in her 50s then, never been married, was single, and they looked at her and they said, "How do you know, Becky?" And she said, "I was speechless. I had no words for them." Now, going back to that team that came, they had 3 guys. These were all like 20, 22-year-old kids. And they spent a month with us there at the house. And after they left, they came to Becky sometime after and they said, and she said they were teared up and they said, now we believe that there really are good men. And so your question just evokes so many emotions because imagine these girls. Many of these girls turn to lesbianism. They turn to the opposite sex because they've had so many horrendous episodes with men. If I could, and not to be too graphic, but it's a sex trade. What do you expect? This is what we do. Imagine a girl being bar fined, like I just explained to you, the one man. They go to the hotel, they go in the room, and there's 6 other men in the room. And the stories that we hear from these girls when they're crying, sobbing, sometimes their head in my chest, crying, sobbing, and I'm holding them. In fact, a girl one time said, "Please don't be lying to me. Please, sir, tell me it's true. Tell me it's true what you're saying." I looked at her and I pulled her away and I wiped her tears off. I said, "It's true." So all that to say is that, David, we just had a couple weeks ago, actually, it was in January, middle of January, we had our second ever all-man team, 12 men from around the country here in America. Previously, we'd done one years ago, and then COVID hit and everything. We had planned to do these more often. Um, we had like 5 countries represented: Australia, Singapore, New Zealand, and America, Canada, et cetera. Anyway, so we bring men. We specifically say we want men to come. And so you get a group of 12 good men. Most, if not all, were married. We had one father-son, 18-year-old son, and a 45-year-old dad or something like that. And then we minister to these girls. They get to see that there really are good men in the world. And they're wearing a ring. They love their wives. They talk about their children. And so we use people to help them understand. And then God, enter in God. God comes in, starts healing their heart. Jesus is the healer, and he heals emotions and all sorts of things, that they're struggling with. Inner healing. I mean, there's a lot of restoration that needs to take place in these girls for them to trust men again.
Yeah. I guess maybe the Catholic culture over there, they frown on same-sex stuff, so the
They do.
there's not a lot of trafficking of young boys to be traded around as prostitutes.
Not, you don't hear, there are some, you hear about it. And I've never seen it.
Okay.
I have seen, however, not a derogatory term here, in the Philippines, called ladyboys.
Okay.
Uh, we would call them transgender women.
Okay, okay.
In Southeast Asia, they call them ladyboys. They are
Oh,
men who
uh,
dress up and these in the Philippines have not had the surgery. You go to Thailand, they've had this the sex change, surgery. But there's and some you can't. I mean, they're like beautiful. You can't like, is that a guy or a girl? I have no idea,
Do you
And
deal
so
with them?
they
Do you
get
help them?
trafficked.
Do you help them?
We had a house specifically for them,
Okay.
and we had 15 in our care at one time,
Yeah.
and we graduated 4 or 5 of them. And after they graduated, my director Becky said, "Coach." Oh, they call me Coach because I was a basketball coach. So they never call you by your name. It's very disrespectful. So it's always Coach. Coach, can we take a break? Because it was it
Uh-huh.
was it was
It's
4
intense.
years
Mm.
of, I mean, they're taking hormones, you know, they're taking hormones to try to become a girl, and they're trying to grow breasts, and they're trying to do, and so you have all this. It was very hard, very difficult, but we're waiting for the day when someone arises and says, "Can I, like, head that up for you? That's my thing. I wanna help these men, lady boys, I wanna help them." So we had 4 or 5, I think it was 4 or 5 that graduated from college. And the reason we do college is because in the Philippines, David, and for those that are watching this, they usually ask that question, like, "Why college?" Is because in the Philippines, you can't work at McDonald's, you can't work at Burger King, you can't work in the mall without a college degree.
Wow. Wow.
So you're talking about entry-level jobs, you can't do it, and so we're talking about poverty. It's great poverty, and so we go, "You know what? If they were," the way I began is I thought, "Okay, I have my 5 daughters. How would I want someone to treat my 5 daughters?" And so I went in from the very beginning with Becky. Me and my wife lived with Becky, the Filipina, and said, "Let's treat them like we would our own daughters in the context of the culture of the Philippines." And so we do. We love them. We take care of their medical, their dental. If they get sick, they go to the hospital. All sorts of things. We just take care of them and love them and love them and love them, even though they mess up and they mess up. But you expect them to, right? You expect them to mess up. They come from a very weird. I mean, they come from the sex trade. And we have these amazing stories. We have girls that become businessmen, entrepreneur, or business ladies, business women. We have girls that are working as school teachers. We have, they choose whatever they want to choose, whatever major,
Cool.
whatever course they want to study, and they do.
Very
And
cool.
we've had 61 college graduates so far.
Wow. Amazing. They must be very grateful, to put it mildly. Very grateful to you,
They
and yeah.
they are. In fact, they always say, "Would you please tell the Americans who are supporting this and those around the world," they always say, "Please tell them thank you." They call me Lolo, which is grandpa, Lolo coach. Lolo coach, please tell them that we are so grateful, oftentimes with tears.
Amazing. What's the illegal drug of choice down there for the girls?
Shabu,
Hmm.
which is like methamphetamine.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
highly addictive.
it's highly addictive, and and you don't want to get caught with Shabu, because if you do, you're going to prison.
Oh,
And so but that's the drug. That's the street drug, Shabu.
wow.
Yeah.
And do you track the progress getting clean from that?
Oh boy, remember I talked about that supernatural God,
Yeah.
signs and wonders God. I mean, it's the God of this Bible. It's and so when you see the miracles, Genesis to Revelation, I'm telling you, David, we see things that will drop your jaw. We've had we've used to say most. I don't know what my director Becky says now, if most or a lot, but it used to be most of our girls came with drugs, many to most. And but I was a teacher. She was a college professor of business. Uh, we were not trained in this, but we knew that we had Jesus. We knew that God was a healer. And if you take him for his word, not just a religion, but as a real person, a real powerful God. And so we just, asked Holy Spirit to do it. And so every one of our girls got clean of drugs except one. And that was years ago in the early days. And we sent her to therapy to help her get free from drugs. But everyone has been delivered from drugs. I mean, sometimes it's crazy. I mean, and I don't know what your audience is here or not, or but I'm just telling you what, like, we've had demons manifest. We've had demons like
Yeah.
take over their bodies and and I mean, this it gets pretty crazy. And we've got rid of them in the name of Jesus by the power of the blood of the Lamb. And God will just break off those things in their lives. So
Amazing.
yeah, we experience it, but God is greater.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. You mentioned prison. You go to prison for drugs, and I would imagine for prostitution too, if they weren't so sneaky about it. But have you dealt with the prisons? Have you gone into the prisons? Do you have any sense of what it's like? Because there's a series called "The World's Most Dangerous Prisons," and they go
I've
around the
seen
world.
it.
They go around the
I've
world, and
seen it.
it's it's widely diverse, the sort of atmospheres that we have in different prison systems around the world. So what's it like there, would you imagine, or have you got concrete experience with
I
it?
have been in the local jail.
Uh-huh.
Not in the prison per se, but I do have some other coaches that did some other trips after when I left, and they went into the prisons and they explained it to me. But I went into the local jail in Angeles City, in that we call it a county, um, a barangay. And let me tell you, you don't want to be thrown into a local jail. It was so crowded. So, the Philippines is very hot. It's in the tropics. It's hot and humid. There's no air conditioning. It was just stifling hot, filthy, dirty. Picture, our jails are clean. The walls are clean. You've seen. I've been in our prisons here. Uh, I've seen it. It was so crowded that not all the men even had a bunk. They had to sleep in shifts, and they don't feed you. You don't get any food. Your food
Oh,
comes from the outside.
wow.
So you had better know someone who's gonna bring you
Wow.
food. It's not a fun place, and I yeah,
Wow.
it's not a good place.
How do you feel about the cops, the military, the politicians, judges, and stuff like that? I mean, we know there's corruption, that's for sure. We know that. You already talked about that, but there's corruption all over the place, even in Canada
Yes.
and US. But when it comes to sort of just the cultural systemic corruption, I'm sure people sleep pretty well at night, even though they're on the take. Um, do you have a chance to talk with people and maybe uh, preach the gospel to them to break that systemic corruption? Or I know it's not your main thing, but
Yeah, that's right, it's not our main thing, but it's a very good question. Um,
what's your sense? Are these people that are sleeping well at night the ones who have a job in the
um,
government or the military or the?
I think, probably as best you can, you have a mind and a soul that is just bought by a system, and you that's just part of what you do. I think that you suppress those things. uh if someone cheats on their taxes, how do they sleep? Well, some guys do fine because that's their business style, and they sleep
Mhm.
well. And I think probably you do just sleep well.
Yeah.
um but I do know that we preach the gospel. Then do we sit down and we talk to them? Well, I believe that a lot of the gospel, the good news, is caught by one's behavior. So they monitor this street, right? You can't drive on the street. It's a walking street. You can't drive
Oh,
on it.
okay.
But they've given us this grace, this mercy, this this license to in the evenings. 400 packed meals. Imagine how much room that takes, right? They put them in boxes, and we wrap them up, put a rubber band around this box, we put our card on there, and it takes it just bag after bag after bag. And they have these blockades to go on the street. We drive up, they see us, they wave at us, they open up the gates for us. They let us drive to the bar because we
Ah,
can just drive to bar to, yeah, bar to bar to bar, and we
cool.
get out. And so we've got their blessing like that. So, uh, you know, you begin to see the goodness of God in people. So I just believe that them by them seeing our very nature, and they will say things. I've had officers say, and different various people, bar owners, different merchants, like, "Why do you do what you do?" And the really the only reason is because I love these girls and I have daughters, and I'm a in fact I don't even use the term Christian much because Christian means so many things to so many people. In fact, it doesn't even mean a whole lot in America. Oh, you're a Christian. Oh, yeah, I know. I just say I'm a Jesus guy. I love Jesus, and he's told us to feed the hungry and take care of the poor. So, and they look at us like, really? It's a Catholic culture, right? So they have that understanding.
Should have, yeah.
So
Have
so we so we've earned their
That's
graces.
pretty cool. Um, have you set foot in a Catholic church there in the Philippines?
I have numerous times. Yeah.
Are they poor or are they ornate like we have here?
Both. You'll see. It's nothing like. I mean, I've been to some of the nicer ones, and it's nice for that culture,
Okay.
but it's nothing like.
The marble and the glass and the high ceilings and all
Yes,
that.
yes,
That we
no,
get
it's
here.
nothing like that. But they in that culture, there is some of that, the high ceilings,
Okay.
but a lot of it is the little local parish that's
Okay.
just in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And it's just in a little tiny, like a little, like almost a house like thing.
Oh, that's
And
cute.
people walk in, there'll be room for 50 people. And I've walked into numerous of those in the neighborhoods, and then sat in on a mass or gone in to pray or whatever. Numerous times I've gone in.
That's nice. What vibe do you get from the faithful in the pews and from the priest on the altar? Um, I mean, it's just going to be a gut reaction, your intuition or whatever. But what does your gut tell you? Do they believe, or is it a cultural thing for them, or what? It's hard to know, but
Yeah, it is. Well, to give you an idea, I had talked about to my staff, to Becky and my staff, and I talk about my Catholic Christian friends back home in America, and they would go like, "What do you mean?" Because the culture there is very ritualistic. It's like, they don't read their Bibles. It's go to mass, light a candle, no relationship with God. It's just a culture. So that's their understanding of Catholicism. Whereas in America, I will have many of my Catholic friends who are deeply in love with. We've had many Catholics come on our mission teams, and you wouldn't distinguish them from I don't like the term Protestant, but you know what
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
from one of us, whatever I am, right? Versus a Catholic. We worship, we sing, we love, we have the same vernacular, and there's no difference. In fact, one time I took one of our girls, her name was Jennifer. She was on a trip, and she was with us for this duration, and I said, "Hey guys, I want to talk to tell you something about Jennifer. You know how in the Philippines we talk about the Roman Catholicism, the Roman Catholic, the culture. It's just a religious culture, not a relationship culture with Jesus, etc." And they go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, coach. Yeah, that's how the Catholics are here." And I go, "I want to introduce you to a very good Catholic friend of mine." And I put my arm around Jennifer from Texas, and one of our staff member began to cry and say, I have this predisposition. I am so sorry because that's not that way in the Philippines." And she goes, "Yes, I'm a Catholic." Well, she'd been with us for a number of days. They saw her love for God and her love for people, and so all that to say is that to kind of give the difference. Now, there's that in America too, right? I grew up in a family where I had cousins who were Roman Catholic, and it was very, very different, and but there is very cultural. You just go to mass, you just say you're a Catholic because you're born in the Philippines, kind of thing.
yeah.
For many.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I enjoy doing my podcast talking to non-Catholics, and that's why I enjoy a mixed culture like sort of what we have in Montreal. I don't know if you've been here or not, but
Well, no, I haven't. I've been to Toronto.
okay, big difference. But anyway, it's there's a multiculturalism in Montreal that I think is unique to Canada compared to Toronto, Vancouver, the other cities. Okay,
Mhm.
because largely because of the French influence and because of the Catholic influence, it's just a different mix of people. Okay, I like all people from all different cultures, but I like the mix here. And
I bet.
the thing I like, one of the things I like about Montreal is, in spite of the fact that it's big and dirty and full of crime and corruption, um, is that we have Muslims and Jews, and it's not just Catholics. Like a lot of my online Catholic friends, they're conservative Catholics, and they want to be surrounded by conservative Catholics. And it's like that's you know to me that makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable because of what you're talking about, because of this going along to get along sort of mentality of groupthink, where the culture is that way and you're just born into it. And I don't like that. And it's the same thing I think in the Bible about there's certain types of Southern Baptists, or I don't know what they are, like non-Catholic Christians in the
Yes,
Bible,
yes,
but
yes,
and it's sort of
right.
like a cultural thing. Like I interviewed a lady, beautiful, wonderful lady, and she loves Christ, but she'd never met an atheist. I mean, it's just weird to me. That's just weird. Like all of her, everyone she knows is her brand of Christian, and it's just like I would find that really weird. I like confrontation with the other way of thinking, and to challenge each other and these sorts of things. So if I were in a 100% Catholic country or context, I'd be very uncomfortable with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, right, right. I love hearing that. I find myself I forced myself over the years to get out of my little cultural shell, and like I told you, like I go into Roman Catholic I go to Catholic churches all the time, and my staff will sometimes like you like I mean now they just go like, oh yeah, he does that. That's just what he does. I just like to be around people. I like to be around people of different nationalities, different food. I mean,
Yeah,
different culture.
yeah,
But it was a lot easier back in the day to have discourse, to have dialogue, to have debate. Now you get canceled, if you don't agree.
yeah,
It's so different right now, right? I mean, you used to like if you and I we could actually have a a debate here. Maybe it was going to be Catholic versus Protestant or whatever, and we could talk about this and that and what Martin Luther said and I just like, yeah, but why can't we just have a real discourse in love, and so and that's me. I just like to discourse with people. I just enjoy that.
What do you think about controversial Catholic man, Pope Francis? What do you think about him? Honestly,
Um,
the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you think?
yeah, yeah. Well, part of that I think is what I go like, what do Catholics think of him? I find that my perception is that the everyday or the every Sunday or every mass kind of Catholic just person just to do it, the cultural Catholic, I think they're probably fine. I may be wrong in that. It depends on what nation you're talking about too. I find the more conservative, the more I'm not, like I listen to I listen to EWTN here on the radio here,
Ah,
and yeah, you're surprised, right? You go,
well,
really?
yeah.
So I listen to EWTN, and by the way, I really enjoy it,
uh,
and I know their positions are like, what is this Pope doing? Like,
Yeah, I
what?
don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like the conservative edge to the EWTN, but I liked it back in the day when Mother Angelica first built it, and
I
I
loved
loved
Mother
her.
Angelica. Yes,
She was conservative, but she was conservative sort of in the way that I am, which is, Catholic first, Christian first, Christ first.
yes, yes,
Not politics, because it's the politics that spoils everything for me. And I think politics has crept into a lot of my conservative Catholic friends' worldviews, like front and center. And so I don't like that. But I agree with the conservatives about most things. It's just that the politics takes over, and then then they're anti-immigration. I'm pro-immigration. Not that I understand the issue, but I just if I have to take a stab at it, stab in the dark, I think I like being in a place with different cultures and different people, and I want
yes,
I want those who are seeking a better way of life to come on in. That's what I want.
yes,
There have to be legal ways to do it, I guess, but My pope is very progressive in that way. He likes immigration, and I belong to a confraternity that is all about migrant peoples, people who are displaced, and with all the wars, it's unthinkable to turn people away when like they're coming from a part of the world that's either extremely poor or they're being persecuted or there's war and all those sorts of things. So a lot of my conservative Christian friends, they think that you have to be anti-immigration or whatever, but I don't think so. I don't think so personally. That's just one example, you know.
Yeah, right. And of course, that's a whole can of worms, right? Because I'm pro immigration too, because I wouldn't be here if there was not immigration.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, my great grandpa came from Norway,
That hence the
and
blue
so
eyes, the blue eyes.
the blue eyes, yeah. And
The
so I
gray,
have
are
this.
they gray blue? Are they a grayish blue?
No, well, if I had blue on, they would be very blue. You know what I mean? Most people say my eyes are extremely blue,
Oh,
but
okay, the blue blue.
uh, so
Norway, and your mom was from?
she's Norwegian as well. Yeah,
Oh, no way.
I have mostly Norwegian Finnish blood in me, and
Wow.
like a hint of Germanic. I was told I was. I
Just
was
to
told I
spice
was.
it up, just to spice things up, throw in
I
some.
My dad said he was half German, and I did the DNA test,
Uh-huh.
and I have like this much Germanic blood in me, which is just nothing. And so I found out I was mostly Finnish, and which I had no idea I was Finnish. I was just told that I was mostly Norwegian, and I had a quarter German in me, but I don't. Uh, but anyway, it's amazing too. It depends on where you live. If you live on the Texas border, you're going like, and you live in that
Ah,
town, you go like, we can't have thousands coming into our city every day.
no.
It's the crime is increased,
Yeah.
and there's people of all nationalities coming across the border, no
Yeah, yeah,
questions
yeah,
asked,
yeah,
and they believe terrorist cells are coming in, etc. So I'm of course
yeah.
I'm all about the Statue of Liberty, right? Ellis Island, I love it. Let's do it the legal way, right?
Yeah, I know we're running out of time here, and I promised my wife I would do one hour max. Okay, but I want you to try to tackle this very delicate question as briefly as you can.
Okay,
Take 5 or 10 minutes, but
here goes.
it's about the colonialism or whatever, where the white Europeans came to the where the native Aboriginal peoples were in the Americas and elsewhere. But let's talk about the Americas. Um, I think that the native people here got a raw deal. They were lied to and deceived and mistreated, largely by the government, the people in the government. That's my personal take on it. And I think a lot of the Christians were obviously being Christian, so that was good. But what's your take on that whole situation? Because I feel really embarrassed. I don't have white guilt per se, but I do feel like when the American white European descent person is all up in arms about angry about these colored people coming into their country or whatever it is. I just think, well, if you know you feel awkward about your situation, how do the natives feel? Like, I mean, they're totally trodden underfoot, right? So how do you approach that? How do you resolve that tension, given the fact that you're American, right? Like you're a full-blooded American, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how do you hold that tension where it's like, did we steal the land, or do we give them a raw deal, or was it a fair, or was it just might makes right? Like we have the power, the technology, and the you know we more civilized people from Europe that came, and so it makes sense to bring a civilizing influence, and now we have all the technology, and it's a better way of life than hunting and gathering. Like, I mean, I've heard arguments both sides, but basically, how do you feel about the whole situation?
Yeah. Oh boy. Briefly answer this question.
That's tough. That's tough.
Over the next 2 hours, we could discourse this, right?
Yeah.
If you go back to 1620, when the first Europeans came, and when they came to Plymouth, they even before they got off the ship,
What
they made.
nationality were they? Spanish or?
No, this is from England in
The
1620.
English were the first?
Well, what's the first? I mean, you can go back. There are people that come, but in America, we go back to
Okay.
1620
Okay.
when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock,
Okay.
Massachusetts,
Okay.
and and then You go 1607. You go back before that. That's when the first first English permanent English settlement was in America, 1607 in Jamestown, Virginia.
Okay.
I happen to taught history in the past, so I do know a
Ah.
little bit. You asked the question to it didn't totally, hit me alongside the face here. So 1607, you have Jamestown in Virginia. And they came for money, and they came for money and money only. And they died and everything. 1620, they came for because of religious persecution. So the difference between 1607 and 1620, totally different demographic of people. So 1607, you have businessmen wanting to come, and they were going to come and find gold. Well, they didn't find any gold, and many of them died off, and it was terrible. But they finally made it. They moved further into Virginia, and they survived. In 1620, though, and that's where we get our American Thanksgiving,
Ah.
where it came from 1620, the Pilgrims, and then the Indians. They came together. Well, early history does prove that they were friends, and they did well. Unfortunately, I think that no matter what is going to happen in the world, in the course of world history, people are going to grow and develop and multiply, and they're going to move, and they're going to go places, and the person with the biggest guns wins. That sounds terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the person with the nuclear weapons wins. Um, what do you do when we all have nuclear weapons? That's a whole nother subject, right? But so, yeah, the mistreatment of people, I just cringe, at that. But in nowadays, no, people do not want to talk about the good things that took place. There were good relationships also. So I always like to bring in that balance of that. Yes, there were, and then the whole slavery thing, right? You bring
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
slavery in
Yeah.
America. I mean, that was horrendous. England got rid of it way before we did. It was terrible. They were defending slavery from the Bible, but eventually we know that you know uh, uh, righteousness prevailed, and it stopped. Uh, what upsets me a little bit is the in the course of political debate is that they're trying to make black and whites come
Uh-huh.
together, but in the middle of that they're trying to bring this divisiveness, and it's like, what, like, I have black friends, we're not mad at each other, but it seems like our government and those in office try to bring a chasm between us, and it's like, we get along just fine, and so we the question is, what about America and the whole thing? The whole world is nation against nation, nationality against nationality, uh, and it's very unfortunate, and it breaks my heart. My heart is broken over whoever my friends are around the world, and whether they be from Iraq or Iran or India, and because of the color of the skin, or in India because you come from a certain tribe, you're looked down upon, you're mistreated. I mean, the killing of people for what they believe. I mean, right now in Mozambique, there is burning of villages because of different religious groups. They're coming in and killing people because these people say they're of Jesus. These people say they're of Allah. So they fight and they kill one another. And I just say, oh God, oh, come, Lord Jesus. And let me tell you this, He's the only answer. There's no political way to fix this, in my opinion. There's zero political way.
Yeah. Another tricky question is Israel, Palestine, Gaza, and all that sort of stuff. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Take a stab at it.
Yeah, well, there's revisionist history
Uh-huh.
in talking about the Palestinians and whatnot, and who came into the land first.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh, the Israelites came into the land actually kind of at the same time the Palestinians did, uh, but we if you go back to the original history of who had the land, it was the Jewish people. I mean, if you go back to
was
the
the Canaanites.
scripture,
It was the Canaanites, no?
and so you look at the scriptures and you see who was there first, and not that people can't move and whatnot, but again, you have people. I just find it so hard to believe that you could get people in a room and they would be getting along just fine until you find out they're a Jew. What? It's that just boggles my mind. I mean, when we go back to what happened, was it October 7th or I forget the date when the whole Palestinian raid,
Yeah.
and we know what happened. We saw it. We see it on video, and yet you have people saying it. No, it didn't happen that way, and that really did. And I go, there's this revised history, and there's people on both sides saying this, and that. I'm just very brokenhearted over it. Um, I don't. If I were a Jew living in Israel and I have to daily live with missiles coming into my nation, into my city, that's just a normal part of their life. That's just normal everyday. You need to be within 5 minutes of an underground bunker when you're in the cities. And so you go, that's how we live. And they've put up with that for years. Does it go the other way? Yes, there's always mistreatment. I don't have an answer to it, but I just
Yeah.
know that there is a. I mean, we could go into the scriptures and see who really owns the land or whatever. But it's so big, brother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so big.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, Romans 11, I always talk about this, the Jews, the full number of Gentiles will come in, and then the Jews are going to, all of Israel's going to be saved, right? So
Yeah,
what does that mean for you in a nutshell?
yeah.
How do you
I
look at that?
believe. Okay, I believe that we are going to see just that. That Israel will Israel, the Jewish in Israel, and all the Jews around the world. There is going to be a supernatural thing from God, and they are going to go, ah, they will become enlightened, and they will understand who Jesus is. Number one, Jesus is the Messiah. He's the Jewish Messiah.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a great awakening, uh, and I think that we are going to see I think that we're going to see Jews return back. Well, they're returning back at a great rate already. They are, but I think we're going to see it, and we're going to see this play out. I think we're going to see this play out. I really do. And unfortunately, I think there's going to be a lot of bloodshed in the middle of it. I think it could be done without bloodshed. Um, and I'm not talking about a politically taking over of Israel from the Jewish state and whatnot. I'm talking about a God thing. I believe that the Jewish hearts are going to go, ah, this is the Messiah that we've been waiting for.
Yeah, like
He
Paul,
is Yeshua.
Saul to Paul kind of thing.
Yeah, he is Yeshua HaMashiach. He is the one. I know that it's already happening. I mean, and if I could just say this too, also in the Muslim nation, God is so for them. God is so passionate for them. And I don't know if you're aware of this, David, but in many of in the whole Muslim community, they are having dreams and visions of a man
Mm.
dressed in white. Are you familiar with
Mm.
that?
Well, I met a Muslim woman who had a vision of Jesus and the name Jesus, and she didn't know what it was, and then she became a Christian, and unfortunately, sad story, spoiler alert, she went back to uh, Islam because I mean, I feel ashamed even to talk about this because it's very personal for her, but because of sexual sin and because of pressures from family. So it was a tragic story, but it had a nice beginning. The beginning was just this, like, she
Yes,
was
yeah.
she was in her Muslim country and she had this vision of Jesus. She fell in love with Jesus and she came over here and became Christian, and then sadly
Wow.
it's like that
Yeah,
story with the seed, the seeds that fall in the path or
yes.
in the
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Well, it's happening at an unprecedented rate. There are thousands upon tens of thousands, maybe millions of Muslims who are receiving this. In fact, we had one of our girls just 10 days ago come from the southernmost part of the Philippines, which is Muslim.
Ah.
She had a vision twice in a matter of a few days. We met her in a
Mhm,
bar
mhm,
while she was with us.
mhm,
She had a vision. She goes, I saw a man dressed in white. And she
mhm.
said, I knew his name was Jesus. Twice, twice.
Wow.
That's just happened in just a day, just days ago. So God is doing that, um, and I believe that same God is going to come and do the same thing with the family of Israel.
Nice. Well, since we're on the topic, I just want to ask you briefly about I clump together all of the Buddhists and Hindus and the New Age Americans who are into yoga and all that sort of stuff, and they think that they're God. Okay, I just clump them together as monists. That separation is illusion. It's just God's puppet show where he's pretending to be separated into all these little finite creatures and not just having a fun time. So, what do you think about the Eastern philosophies and religions? That is so popular here in the West, in the first world today. What do you think about them and their spiritual journey? How can they come to understand that they are not just a spark of God or a fragment of God that's deceived into believing that they're separate from God, and that ultimately they will end up back in the Godhead, and that there's no danger whatsoever of an eternal hell. There may be a complicated path back to enlightenment, but they're guaranteed to get there through many, many lifetimes. What do you say to these people? Because I have them on my show very, very often. And, how would you approach that sort of mentality?
Yeah. Number one, with great love. I mean, and that's how I with great love towards those people. I've never argued intellectually someone into the kingdom of God ever. I've only done it by loving them as well. But and you do have discourse, but it's by it's by our love that they will know that Jesus is the King,
Yeah.
that He really is. So there's so many things here, but there's deception, and I know that there's so many deceptions and deceptive things. I mean, I've had a whole nother topic. I've had demons manifest to me. I mean, there was a demon in front of me. That's a whole other story.
Mhm.
I've had them, oh gosh, I just know they come to deceive. They come to
Yeah.
steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And I know that the Bible, that Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Yeah, but that's just one man's perspective. Yeah, but he died and rose again. There's no, all the other leaders, they're in their tombs. He died and rose again as it was foretold in the scriptures. And so there is a man, Christ Jesus, who is the God man, who is fully human, fully God. And I say to those people, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. And deceptiveness be gone in your life, by the power of the blood of Jesus. It's I'm all about talking about those religions and whatnot, but I'm one of those guys that says there's not many paths to God. There's just not. Only one has died and risen as foretold in the scriptures, and says he's going to come back again. And he's willing to forgive us of all of our sin, which is amazing. It's a very simple yet very, very complicated as well, but it's a
Mhm.
very simple thing. Jesus came, lived, died, rose again, and he lives today. He really lives today.
Amazing. Well, normally I ask someone to leave a closing thought. I think you just gave it. So we're going to wrap it up here. That was beautiful. And I agree 100% with you. Next time, I do hope you come back again. You have an open invitation anytime to
I would
come and
love it,
chat.
man.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll
Good.
talk about when the demon appeared to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if you know I was a Satanist before, so we could talk about that.
I read that, but you must surely have a story out there somewhere online. I'd
Oh
like to
yeah,
hear
it's
about
all over.
that.
It's all over. Like it's not that exciting of a story because I wasn't a very good Satanist. Just like I'm not a very good Christian. It's like it's mediocre. So it's not that fascinating. But next time, I would like to dive a little bit more into the Bible. I want to talk about your prayer life. I want to talk about some of the Catholic saints, and how maybe you were inspired by Mother Teresa and different great
Oh,
heroes of the
are you
faith.
serious?
Yeah,
Are you s
yeah,
Okay, I want you to write it down. You asked me you asked me, "So
yeah,
how
yeah.
did Mother Teresa affect you?"
Oh.
I enough to where
You can give
I
us a
went.
spoiler if you wanna give us a mini spoiler
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
you can give
okay.
us a
Well,
mini spoiler.
I watched a movie of, like a Hollywood documentary type of movie, but it was very accurate about her life. I found myself weeping,
Mm.
and then the Lord told me, I heard his voice. He said, "Go to India and follow and walk in the steps of Sister Teresa."
Ooh. Ooh.
And I did. I spent 3 weeks over there, and I went and
Wow.
I went to Calcutta, now called Kolkata, and I walked in her steps. And he said, and for the purpose of, he says, "Walk in her steps to receive more of my heart that was in her for the poor and the sick and the downtrodden." And I did.
Wow.
And I went to India for that purpose. Next time we
Amazing.
meet, next time we
Amazing.
meet.
Yeah. Amazing. So God bless you. I hope you're going to pray for me and mine. I have a feeling your prayers are powerful. So please pray for me and mine. And I do enroll all my guests, whether they like it or not, in a perpetual mass. You're getting the prayers of the mass for you and yours every day. Okay.
Thank you, man.
It was a joy
Thank
meeting
you
you,
so
and
much.
God bless you. And thank you sincerely for the work you're doing. It's amazing. And I know all the
Thank
glory
you.
goes to God. I know all the glory goes to God. I know you don't have anything good that you've not received, but we acknowledge, we give credit where credit is due, and you're
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be an instrument of God, and you're cooperating with the graces, right? It's not enough just to receive graces. We all receive graces. You have corresponded with the graces. You've cooperated to a great extent. So God bless you for
Mhm.
that.
Thank you so much, and God bless you too.
Very
And
nice.
I really mean, David, may the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless you and be all around you, above you, beside you, all around you. And I really mean that in the name of Jesus.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
bless you. So thank you. It was a joy to meet you, and we'll talk soon, hopefully. Okay.
Okay, good.
God
Bye-bye.
bless.